We will now turn to consideration of the CJS Appropriations Bill. Again, let me thank the subcommittee for working together and producing a strong bipartisan bill. I also want to thank the CJS staff for working to get the bill ready for this first markup. This bill includes many important priorities for the American people, including funding for the Department of Justice, the Department of Commerce, NASA, and the National Science Foundation. I would now recognize Chair Murray, Vice Chair Murray, if she would like to comment on the bill.
Well, I just want to thank Chair Moran and Ranking Member Van Hollen for your work on this crucial bill. These are investments that protect our communities and that protect our leadership in science and innovation, from funding for NOAA's weather forecasting abilities, new investments in grants to prevent violence against women, and resources to keep communities across America safe, to rejecting efforts to slash funding for NSF, collapse and weaken the ATF, or cut funding for oversight at DOJ. These are really important investments, and I urge my colleagues to consider these. I will again say that I will support Senator Van Hollen on his amendment when he brings it forward.
Senator Moran, please present the bill.
Thank you, Chairman Collins, and thanks, Vice Chairman Murray. As you indicated, thanks to the staff of Senator Van Hollen on this subcommittee and to the majority staff, Brian and Kevin, for their tremendous effort in getting a bill completed in short order, short time. And I appreciate the cooperation that I've had with Senator Van Hollen in getting this bill to the position that it's in, only to him to discover that there was a challenge that he was unaware of, but he continued to be helpful as we put this bill together that makes a lot of sense. As Senator Collins said, Chairman Collins said, this is about the Department of Commerce, the Department of Justice, and then our science portfolio is NASA and the National Science Foundation. I would sum up what we've done here by saying that this bill is a blueprint on how to govern in a constrained fiscal environment by making smart strategic choices, cutting where we can, investing where we must, and always staying focused on trying to deliver value to the American people. Our allocation, we certainly met our allocation where really the decision about how much money we had to spend was determined. And I appreciate the Vice Chairman and the Chairman in providing the allocation for us to work with. The real increase in spending power in this CJS-funded agencies is only $279 million increase, or 0.37%. That's above the FY25 level. I indicated to those who ask on this committee or the press, constituents at home, that what did I envision? And that was that I envisioned that we would have a normal appropriation process and try to create a normal bill under the circumstances of the President's budget request and under the circumstances of the allocations that we have. And I would describe this bill, I don't know what normal is around here, but if something's normal, this is close to being normal as what this committee would do and what this subcommittee has done in the past. Approximately half of that increase that I mentioned is dedicated to the census. The decennial census comes into our bill, comes for appropriations, and so we begin funding the census preparation for the next decennial census, and that began in this piece of legislation. So half of the increase was consumed by something that I don't know that many of us have a lot at stake in, I guess apportionment of the congressional houses, making sure our constituents are enumerated, and yet it is the constitutional responsibility that we're responding to. To balance this FY26 Senate mark, it makes cuts to a large number of Department of Commerce bureaus and DOJ components. However, we targeted these cuts as much as possible to the personal heavy accounts that do not require funding for positions that have already been vacated in FY25. Having said that the cuts came from the Department of Commerce and the Department of Justice components, federal law enforcement under the Department of Justice, the FBI, the ATF, the DEA, and the Bureau of Prisons, and the Office of the United States Attorneys are all held flat. That mark rejects major cuts that have been proposed to those law enforcement agencies. And in the addition that our bill provides, and it's an issue that I've promoted in the past, this mark increases $20 million above the FY enacted level for the U.S. Marshals Service strictly for its judicial and courthouse security programs, and $10 million in new funding for the Daniel Adel Act grant program, which removes federal judges' personal information from public sources. It was mentioned about the safety of members of legislative branches. I tried to prioritize the safety of the judicial branch as we work our way through this legislation. Science funding, this mark is makes a minimal cut of $60 million to the National Science Foundation. That's a 0.67% decrease. And the NASA account, I want to spend a moment on NASA. For NASA, the bill reflects an ambitious approach to space exploration, prioritizing the agency's flagship program, Artemis, and rejecting premature terminations of systems like SLS and Orion before commercial replacements are ready. We make critical investments to accelerate our plans to land Americans on the lunar surface before the Chinese, but also in the technologies and capacity to land astronauts on Mars. This bill protects key science missions that are fundamental to furthering our understanding of the Earth and better stewards of our natural resources, and supports critical programs not only to drive discovery, but to safeguard the Earth from natural disasters. And then, particularly with the events of the past, for many of us, NOAA, and particularly the National Weather Service, is a hugely important component of what this bill funds, and this bill recognizes that importance. NOAA is funded in a way that eliminates the ability, I shouldn't say the ability, eliminates the reduction in workforce at our National Weather Service, an issue that I've paid attention to, legislation that I've introduced that makes certain that those employees are considered incapable of being furloughed or removed, but also led an effort to get the National Weather Service to eliminate the pause, the administration to eliminate the pause on hiring. So this this appropriation bill fully funds the National Weather Service for purposes of employing the people who work at the National Weather Service to protect our well-being. And then just generally, and I think maybe other committee reports that we hear today will incorporate these kind of changes. But we are incorporating by reference our report tables, specifying the levels of funding at NOAA, NASA, and NSF to bring them into the text of the legislation, the appropriations bill. And we are addressing the amount of money that can be transferred by an agency, and perhaps something of importance or value to the members of the committee, a requirement that the Secretary of Commerce renews cooperative agreements with individual states as manufacturing extension partnerships as they come up for renewal. And then perhaps last here for my comments, I've discovered that in my time as an elected official in the Senate, it's a new development I have in conclusion more than once in my closing remarks. But in near conclusion, the DOJ's Office of Violence Against Women, the Office of Justice Programs, and the COPS Office now must post, under this legislation, if adopted, post their notices of funding opportunities within 90 days of enactment of this bill, and must make the award decisions before the end of the fiscal year. We've had significant delays in grant-making process so far in FY25. The intention of this provision is to get the agencies to post and then award the grants in a timely fashion. I share the comments of both the chairwoman and vice chairwoman. What I have set out to attempt to do and working with Senator Van Hollen is to avoid a continuing resolution and to make certain that we fulfill our responsibilities under Article 1. Thank you, Madam Chairwoman.
Thank you very much, Senator Moran, for an excellent presentation and a terrific job. I'm now pleased to call on the Vice Chair of the subcommittee, Senator Van Hollen, for any additional remarks that he might want to make on the CJS bill.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair and colleagues. And yes, as I said at the outset, I wanted to, first of all, thank Senator Moran and his team for working in a cooperative spirit on so much of this bill, what's in the bill. And thank his staff, Brian Danner, Kevin Wheeler, Rachel Taylor, Brian Gutrow, and my team, Jess Berry, Mike Benarchik, Blaise Sheridan, and Lindsay Erickson. I think we all recognize how much time our staff puts into making today possible, so I want to thank all of them. As Chair Moran indicated, while the total funds available in the CJS account are just 0.5% above the CR levels, we were able to make smart and targeted investments to help keep our communities safe, keep our country safe, to advance U.S. leadership in science and innovation, and to support growth and prosperity of the American economy. We were able to protect agencies and programs like NASA Science and STEM, NOAA, NSF, the Manufacturing Extension Partnership Centers, and state, local law enforcement assistance grants. The chairman, of course, covered many aspects of this bill, so I'm not going to repeat those, what he discussed. I do just want to make a couple comments that I don't think were covered, or want to cover them a little more. In the Department of Commerce budget, we maintain the current next-generation satellites that track severe weather, promote and support American businesses and exports, spur economic development nationwide, create cybersecurity and AI standards, promote economic development nationwide, and enable sustainable management of ocean resources, conduct periodic censuses, as the chair said, and much more. To promote American innovation and scientific discovery, the bill provides $9 billion for the National Science Foundation, sparing it from the proposed 57% cut advanced in the president's budget request. The bill funds NASA at $24.9 billion, slightly above fiscal year 2025, to explore the solar system, to advance our understanding of climate change, promote innovation and sustainability in aeronautics, and protect our planet. We rejected cuts that would have devastated NASA science by 47% and would have terminated 55 operating and planned missions. And instead, we provide $7.3 billion. And as Chairman Moran said, and I won't go into the specifics again, we help keep Americans safe from violence in their communities and invest in life-saving grant programs for state, local, and tribal law enforcement, criminal justice initiatives, victims support, and other critical elements. So, colleagues, as I said at the beginning, there's a lot of good news in this report. I will be offering, as I indicated earlier, an amendment with respect to the one big gap regarding the precedent being set by not protecting the FBI funds that the committee has